When I compress the bottom, I generally go in, only in. I don't do the whole going back and forth across, because I find if there is an air bubble there, or the bat's a bit unregular and there's a bubble there, it'll stay there. You've got to try and pop it on the bottom. If you drive across to the middle, you'll feel it tighter and tighter, and then the air will come out the middle, and then you can tighten it up. So it exits out the middle. And that way, you avoid those S cracks. It's all in how it feels. You'll feel it when it's right. It'll be tight.
Going from the center out.
From the outside in.
Pushing in.
Yeah, because it'll all migrate in, and then the bubble will migrate in.
To the center.
And then come out. Yeah. Because it has to go somewhere. Unless you try and pop it and squeeze it out, that's a lot of work. It's actually better to find it to the middle and generally, purposefully get it out the middle. Now this is part of the production process that's a little bit wild, the initial lift. So you make the wheel work for you, press in and lift up. So the wheel's doing a lot of that work for you. You're using the centrifugal force and controlling it. But what you end up with is a pretty wild interior because it's just been compressed. So as you go back in, you've got to tidy that up. The most important thing, once again, is the collaring at the top. This is where the compression at the top keeps the pot tight. If it's loose up here, the whole thing will just get out of form as you go up. You can press down and tighten that, because you can access it quickly, easily with the closeness of it, and also it holds it together. Liberal amount of water. As I drive in, my hand will actually go down the side of the wall and help compress that part that's quite loose and rough. So you go down, you'll see the form. You're pressing down the side wall till you get to the bottom. As I get to the bottom, my outside hand pushes in to narrow it. I'll just take it out to show you. And I'm in this formation. So we're up, down like that, and that's starting to come underneath the bottom of the wall. And this is where your hand will be on this side, but this is where this will lift up to make the cylinder. I work with the palm of my hand. A lot of people work with knuckles and different forms. My form is this here. So I can carry a lot of clay in that section. When you go to a bigger decent piece of clay, you can lift quite a bit with that part of your hand. So now we'll do the first cylinder lift. Inside hand is pushing out and the outside hand is pushing up. We get to about here and a lot of the pressure can't be pushed anymore because there's no more pot. So you come up, compress that again, and you end up with that formation. But the wall thickness is roughly the same as down here. So then we wet and we collar up. Once again, locking in the top. Every time you do it, lock that top in. Tighten it up. Now under a production scenario, that we just go straight into the shape of the pot. But if you want to refine it with nicer pots that require even wall thickness and nice smooth outside, we'll just tidy up the cylinder and make a nice neat cylinder. So we'll go back down. There's not a lot of lift happening here. You'll just feel the wall, feel where it's a little bit uneven. Balance it out, like there's a little section needs to be lifted. Push out. Once again, you get up to the top. You can't push too much. You just come up and compress. Now you've got a small collar to tidy up. All the while, you're using the speed of the wheel to respond to where you're at on the pot. Further out you are, the slower you go. Further up you go, the slower you go. When you're down centering, the speed's really good. It's your friend. You throw it. You get more power, more control with the speed, and less muscle work. But when you start going up and out, slow it down.
No sponge, not a lot of water.
There's water down there. I have to get out now. That's the right down timing, but I'll put some water on this before I lift. Try and avoid as much water as possible. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to get it to happen. But the less water the better, obviously, and the quicker you can throw over time, the tighter the body is, the less saturated it gets. Some clays throw off a lot of slip. This one flows off a fair bit, but it throws really well. It's a good, tight throwing body. So now,
It is
What clay is
Loafer's
that?
glory.
Loafer's Glory. Yeah. Now, a little bit of water run down the wall inside. Now we'll come up. This is what I call the shaping pull. So you're lifting and putting part of the shape in already. The outside hand, the outside hand is on top, the inside hand is underneath. As you get up the top there, a lot of that pressure is starting to release because you get into the top of the pot, so you've got to change a little bit of the pressure and go back in. Once again, just tighten the top. Keep that top tight and running smooth, and that keeps it in control.
How are you holding your inside fingers?
It's running off this part here. So you feel as you pull out, push out and run up, it's a stretch and a guide. So you're actually lifting the clay up. So when you get a big pot and you do that, you can lift the whole pot off if it's firm clay. So you're lifting it with your fingertips. This outside hand is guiding, and you're lifting and feeling the stretch. And what it does is it gives you a rough looking pot, pretty close to what you're aiming for, but that it's all been thinned out and stretched, and now you just tidy it up. Now you just alter the shape. If you want to make a blown out piece, you make sure you leave more clay there, because it will thin out as it goes out quite a bit. When you use a flame gun, you can take it out to here, so it's going to thin by half at least. When you go taller, you can just go straight up, but when it's stiff clay and you're really on song, you can almost get the whole shape in one go. But sometimes when it's a bit softer, just a little softer, you have to be guiding it. And then we go in later and tidy it up. So I'll take a straight edge and a sponge, and we'll go in and just tidy up the wall. There's a little bit of water from the lift, so we go down to there, take that out. And now we're just pushing from the outside, from the inside to the outside rib. Takes off the slip, which means it stops soaking into the pot. You get quite a collection. And we're getting closer to the shape we want, but we're not quite there yet. So now you can take the ribs. I use a timber rib for the inside and a plastic one. Two different shapes. The plastic is really good because it's a very thin profile, so there's not as much drag on the pot. So when the pots are flamed and they're getting quite stiff, this shows less drag. This is a bit thicker, but has a little bit more drag. It's only fine.
Is the plastic rib stiff? Is the plastic rib stiff?
Yes, solid. Just fully solid. You need it fully solid to control. Later you can use the flexible ones to do the curves on the outside, but always solid ones on the inside. With that technique that I use, that the lift and the rip, the shaping pull, the inside has got quite some throwing lines. So when you're doing crystal pots or any pots that will show off those throwing lines that you want to get out, it's a good idea to rib the inside as well as the outside. Other pots, if you don't mind a few throwing lines, well, you just leave them there. A little tip when you're ribbing, if the pot's running well enough and you can manage to rib down, it will tighten up the pot. So say I come from the top here, which I often do, work the top first and rib it down, that small section, just tightens it up. Just really gets it workable. I know it doesn't look much, but it helps a lot. Take a metal rib. This one here is nice and flexible, stainless steel, simple little metal rib. Just to help get that final curve as we alter the shape. Because we're fairly close to getting this one to where we want.